been 2 months now since Nancy Mace became a state representative for House District 99. And since that time, she's been dealing with issues from utilities to offshore drilling. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with Representative Mace one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Representative Mace, it's so good to see you again.
Good to see you too. And congratulations, by the way, for your recognition in the Charleston County GOP inaugural Black History Month celebration. That was pretty cool.
Well, thank you. I hope I didn't ramble or say anything out of
You're fantastic. You're really good, and everyone in Charleston just loves you.
Yeah, they love me.
It was nice to see that you get that recognition.
Oh, thank
you.
you.
So what interview number am I?
Probably 48 or so.
Okay.
I'm getting close to 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000. Yeah, that's good. I want to be your 1,000th.
Okay,
so
okay.
For that when we get there.
I was hoping Bill and Debbie would be 1,000, but we'll work on
see.
something.
Yeah. Anytime.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, as we sit here right now, you guys just closed another week at the South Carolina State House.
Yeah.
And what are the bills that stick out in your mind right now?
Right now, really top of mind, I think for me and most folks in South Carolina, but particularly the district that I'm in, is still the nuclear power plant mess that's going on. We haven't resolved really any issues between the Senate and the House right now. So a couple of weeks ago, the House repealed the Baseload Review Act prospectively or in the future. And we also rolled back the 19.52% rate increases that SCNG did. It was basically 9 rate hikes over the last decade since the Baseload Review Act was enacted, and raised rates almost 20% on ratepayers. We wanted to roll that back, at least temporarily, in the interim until we figure out what the long-term solution is going to be to this mess that we have on our hands. And that went over to the Senate. And the Senate came back and they wanted to give more time for state regulators to approve the Dominion deal, because Dominion Energy out of Virginia wants to buy SCANA, and that's all well and good, but what the Senate does not want to do is they don't want to roll back rates for ratepayers. And that just seems so ridiculous at this point in time that, we put the state, the General Assembly in 2007, put all the risk, all of it, to build this nuclear power plant, took that risk away from the shareholders and creditors and put it on the backs of ratepayers. And we all know what happened $9 billion later. And we're not providing any relief to the ratepayers at this point, yet the stockholders of SCANA have been getting cash dividends for the last decade to the tune of $2.5 billion, and they just got or getting another dividend here shortly. And so I don't understand where the disconnect is. So we can provide more time. We need to, in terms of having state regulators look at the Dominion deal. I wholeheartedly agree with that, because I feel like we're rushing through a lot of these issues when we should be taking our time to figure out what the ultimate consequences, good and bad, are going to be of any decision that's made regarding the nuclear reactors. But to not provide any sum of relief over the course of the next 9 months, I mean, the ratepayers are being billed $1.2 million a day, which is about $37 million a month right now. And I think it's utterly ridiculous that we're not providing any sort of relief in the interim, temporary or long term.
Where is the Senate on this? Do you guys in the House have any support from the Senate?
Well, no, not really. The Senate's not even looking at any of our bills that we're sending over. The House generally sends over a heck of a lot more bills over the Senate. The Senate tends to be a more deliberative body, but they're not even really considering many, if any, of our bills right now. And so there's got to be some give and take. So I can see the House, we pretty much agree with the Senate on extending that time frame for the PSC to look at that deal, but there's got to be give and take. They've got to give relief to ratepayers. The Senate can't have it its own way, all the way, 100%. I mean, we have got to negotiate here, and that's what the House is trying to do. We're trying to take, I think, a pragmatic approach and say, the rate relief may not be long-term, but can we at least do it temporarily for the next 9 months or the next couple of months? And so I just don't understand why the Senate can't get there. It's mind-boggling to me right now.
And you talk about the House. Let me stay in the House, because this headline from Channel 4 reads this: Bill to end spoof telemarketing continues to gain momentum in the House. So what's that momentum like in your mind?
I don't, it hasn't come up yet, but I believe we debated it the other day.
Okay.
We debate so many bills and we do it, it's like rapid fire in there and it's hard to keep up sometimes. But, you know, when you get a phone call from an 843 number,
Right.
it better be in the area. I mean, because you have a lot of marketers now that are out of state,
Right.
and they're spoofing their phone numbers to look like it's a local, and it's false advertising is what it is. And we've got to do a better job of protecting consumers, much like we're doing with ratepayers and SCE&G, but it's just another way for us to protect the consumer.
High school dropout bill. This is the article from the Post and Courier. It reads this: a bill to raise South Carolina's minimum high school dropout age, that is, from 17 to 18, advanced out of a House subcommittee with a 6 vote 6-0 vote Tuesday, making it one a step further than the last time the proposal was introduced 2 years ago. So what does 6-0 tell you?
Well, coming out of subcommittee, I guess it would go to full committee now, that it would pass with a favorable rating from that subcommittee. It'll go to full committee to get voted on before it gets onto the House floor. But what's interesting is I'm actually a high school dropout. I dropped out when I was 17. And I do think that we've got to do a better job by our students in the public school system. I know firsthand that one size does not fit all, but when I dropped out when I was 17, I took a job at Waffle House full time, and I wasn't going to sit for the GED, okay? And I sure as hell wasn't going back to school. I'd been bullied and wasn't going to step foot back into my high school. I was done with it. But what the principal of my high school saw in me, he said, I know you're too stubborn to get your GED and you're not coming back. I get that. But if you take courses at Trident Technical College, I will get you your diploma. And 6 months later, I received my high school diploma, and I actually ended up graduating a year early.
Wow.
So, you know, I don't like necessarily the 18-year-old age cutoff, because I think that we need to be more creative with how we educate our children, and two, realize that for some people, you know, when I look at the high school criteria to graduate, I mean, how little I needed by senior year to graduate, it didn't seem to make sense when I was that age to stay an extra year. So I was able to take college courses and ended up graduating early. So I think we need to have a little more flexibility on how we approach this issue with students, and really understanding why some students are dropping out, and then what can we do. Are there some that maybe need to go into a vocational program to learn a skill? Or are there others that maybe are bored, and if we give them more challenges, like going to a tech school or taking college courses, you know, what are some different things we can do, as opposed to making a statewide regulation that 18 is the cutoff? Because if I had to stay in school another year at the age of 18, I don't know what I would have done. I would have been even more frustrated with the experience, because that was not what I needed at that time. I needed to get out of there, get my diploma, and move on. So.
And let me go down the street here, really back to Green to the Citadel, which you know very, very well. You graduated from there. And now online, there was this debate between you and Shannon Faulkner.
Right.
You basically told her, hey, you didn't earn this rank.
Yeah.
And you've gotten good and bad responses. What is it like to be you in the middle of this discussion?
Yeah, well, the responses were overwhelmingly positive.
Okay.
I think I could count on one hand the number of people that maybe didn't like my response,
Okay.
a handful or so. You know, I believe in free speech,
Okay.
and on college campuses especially. And so I didn't have a problem with her coming down to campus and speaking, but I had a problem with the words that she spoke, and claiming that she was a graduate of the Citadel, and that she wears the ring, and she's the mom to all women there. You know, the truth of the matter is, Shannon Faulkner did sue the school for Shannon Faulkner. It was a publicity stunt, and for anyone to think otherwise is very naive. And you know, it also made it tougher for the women that followed. And the actual historical facts, because I hate revisionist history, is that the Citadel decided to admit women only after VMI, the Virginia Military Institute, lost its United States Supreme Court case.
Right.
So those are the facts, and for her to make those remarks, I felt really watered down and was a discredit to all the women who have graduated. One, let's tell the truth and let's tell the whole story, and let's give credit where credit is due. I know firsthand what the women went through back when I was there in the 90s and what they're going through now, and it's still very tough. And so I don't want to take anything away from those women. They are remarkable women. They're very successful. They have been, they do amazing jobs in the private and public sector right now. I say that we're silent but deadly. I mean, there's some really amazing women that have gone through there, and I don't want her remarks to ever overshadow what they have done. And I really felt like, you know, of all the people that could say something about this and have a voice, I wanted to give a voice to all Citadel alumni, not just the women, but also the men, because I was just simply saying what everybody else was thinking. And I'm very passionate about that school. I mean, I am where I am today through the grace of God and through the Citadel. That place really saved my life. Mm-hmm. So I credit it with much of my success in business since then.
And I know I don't want to take her words out of context, but I believe she told Channel 2, hey, you know, I attended a day school there at Citadel.
She backpedaled on her comments, so I was glad to see that.
Okay.
And trying to make excuses for the outrageous remarks that she made. I was just dismayed. So.
And obviously, let's talk more about controversy, because you have those Twitter trolls.
We love our Twitter trolls.
They've attacked me for some reason. I don't know why.
I know.
But they're asking me, well, you know, is Nancy Mace under investigation for the Trump administration, all this other stuff? What is going on?
I have no idea. I think some people are just out of their damn mind, you know. And a lot of those Twitter trolls, they don't even have a real name or a real person attached to it. They're fake accounts, and they're often liberal accounts, which whatever. You know, I've got to represent everybody in my district too. But it's just some of the stuff that comes out. It's laughable. I have to laugh at it because it's so outrageous.
And you talk about your district, which is 99. What is it like for you to represent that district as a House representative?
I love it so far. You know, I love the people that I represent on both sides of the aisle.
Sure.
You know, I represent Hanahan, Daniel Island, and North Mount Pleasant. And it's a real honor to represent my community up at the State House. I mean, my second week in office, I filed a House resolution opposing offshore drilling, a bipartisan effort. My first bill that I filed was after the Parkland, Florida shooting.
Right.
I learned that it was not illegal or a misdemeanor to threaten to shoot up a school, and that's wrong. And so I filed a bill that would make that a misdemeanor, and it has different levels of punishment in there. But you know, I've worked on a couple of other bills. I'm working on a bill with Representative Lee Hewitt right now.
Right.
A couple of months ago in Mount Pleasant, there were a couple of children who were approached by a man in a van, and he tried to get them into his van by enticing them to see his dog or his puppy.
Oh.
And that's not illegal, and so in South Carolina, so he couldn't be arrested, couldn't even be brought in for questioning. And so I have been working on a bill with Lee Hewitt, and we filed it a couple weeks ago to make our laws in South Carolina more stringent on something like that. When an individual has an intent to do harm, or we think there's an intent to do harm to a child, it shouldn't be after they've been abducted. There has to be, I think, more stringent laws on the books, so that when someone does attempt to do that, they can be brought in, they can be arrested, thrown in jail, etc. The punishment needs to be harsh. And then, because of Parkland, people are they're very passionate, myself included. Everyone in this country wants to protect the safety of our children when they're in our schools. And so I've been working on some legislation now that I will unveil next week with the governor on some preventative measures that I believe we can take. There are certain things that are never going to happen in South Carolina. We're never going to extend the background check time frame. That's a federal law. You know, in South Carolina has tried and attempted to do that in the past, extended to 5 days or 2 weeks or whatever, different time frames, and it's never passed the House or the Senate. So, you know, I'm trying to think outside of the box on what we can do in a preventative way. And so I'm working on a couple of legislative initiatives, and one I will unveil on Monday, which I'm very excited about.
Okay.
And we're going into budget week, so
right.
for the House, and so next week is a big week for all sorts of reasons, because we're going through our budget and trying to figure out what we're going to do there, and then vote on it. So next week will be a very long week for us in the House. I'm told we'll have some very late nights voting on these different fiscal and budget issues.
Well, get your coffee ready.
Yes, absolutely, and M&Ms. So I walk around with M&Ms up there 'cause I love chocolate. So
good.
I'll be eating a lot of chocolate next
We
week.
gotta send you a box up there one day as a care gift. You know
When
what I
I
mean?
get stressed out, I eat chocolate,
Wow.
and so I will have a lot of that up there with me next week.
That will definitely give you some energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Representative Nancy Mace, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Anytime, and thank you for sitting at the table last week with me at the banquet.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you.